Walking connects us to the glorious world around us, which we so often lose touch with in our busy everyday lives. It's good for our health and lifts the spirits like nothing else.
That is the most incredible view I have ever seen.
More and more people are feeling the benefits of this simplest form of relaxation.
Walking is about getting fit in body, mind and soul.
Being in nature gives me such a sense of the sacred.
And in this series, we're going to be joining them.
I'm Marine Baig.
And I'm JB Gill.
Come join us as we celebrate the joy, wisdom and beauty to be found not only in Britain's incredible religious spaces.
There's something really special when you enter a place like this.
But in its people as well.
You're really casting everything else away, all the problems of the day.
It's so important for our well-being.
If you're mindful and spend time in the present moment, then you'll have a much richer life.
We'll be discovering Britain's hidden cultural and historical treasures.
Imagine what this would have been like in its former glory. Unreal.
And unearthing an array of special places that can bring peace and spiritual fulfilment.
Dartmoor is my temple. Dartmoor is my cathedral.
No matter where you live, there's some trail or route you can walk. So put on your walking boots, put your best foot forward,
as we embark on some walks of life. Today, I'm in Shropshire, one of the most rural counties in England, a quarter of which is designated an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's also crisscrossed by the longest river in Britain, the Severn. I want to explore how, over the centuries, this landscape and the river that runs through it have come to define the way of life for the people who've settled here.
In the last few years, we've had a renaissance of wine growing in this country, and we're giving the rest of the world a run for their money.
I'll discover how one family's faith inspired ingenuity that transformed not just this area, but the entire world.
There's the innovations undertaken by Abraham Darby, which really kick-started a whole series of changes that we now call the Industrial Revolution.
I'll take to the Severn itself to try and master a contraption that's been used to work these waters for centuries. I think there's a future for me in this coraclin. How did I do?
4 out of 10.
And I'll uncover the secrets of a spectacular ruined riverside abbey and the simple way of life that lives on even today.
All Cistercian abbeys were laid out the same. You feel you know your way around, even though this is the first time I visited here.
I'll explore a Saxon church that contains the finest collection of stained glass windows in the country.
You're talking about 50, 60,000 visitors coming here every year, and once people have been in, they grow to love it.
And I'll finish my walk in the county town of Shrewsbury, home to the latest generation of people who draw their lifeblood from the river. From the Romans who invaded to the Normans who built this castle, the one constant is the Severn. The spectacular Severn stretches 220 miles, all the way from West Wales down to the Bristol Channel. I'll be walking just 12 of those, and the signs are looking good that the rain will hold off for the duration of my journey. And my first stop is a small town with a very big claim. Ask the locals and they'll tell you the Industrial Revolution didn't start in the mills of the north, but right here on the banks of the Severn. I'm en route to a historical landmark so significant the entire town is named after it. There it is, the Ironbridge. Unfortunately, it's been closed for repair since November 2017 in the biggest restoration project in English heritage's history. It doesn't look like much now, but this should give you an idea of what it really looks like. Opened in 1781, this was the first bridge to be constructed entirely using cast iron, a material that would go on to revolutionise transport, engineering and construction. The forerunner of steel, it was strong, resilient and far more weather resistant than timber, which had previously been used. But I've heard that this isn't just a story of engineering ingenuity, there's a fascinating religious tale to tell too. So to find out all about it, I'm heading down the gorge to the Coalbrookdale Museum of Iron.
Well, here we are. The museum looks a bit like an old warehouse, so I'm intrigued to see what's inside.
Apparently, this is the former headquarters of the Coalbrookdale Company, the family business set up by the Darby family who built the bridge.
Hello there.
Oh, good morning.
How are you? Is Georgina around?
I'll give her a ring for you. Hi, Georgina. Gentleman to see you.
Look, they've got little miniatures of the bridge. Handmade as well. Amazing.
Museum curator Georgina Grant is going to tell me more about the pioneering work that occurred here in the 18th century.
What are all these buildings?
So historically, these buildings were warehouses for the Coalbrookdale Company, but now we use them for our Museum of Iron and also to house our library and archives.
And how do they link into the Iron Bridge?
Well, it was on this site that iron innovations were made that enabled the Darbys to build the world's first cast iron bridge.
Georgina explains that although cast iron had been around for 2,000 years, Abraham Darby came up with the idea of smelting iron ore in a blast furnace with carbon-rich coking coal rather than traditional charcoal. And it was then his grandson, also called Abraham, who used this technique to build the Iron Bridge.
And was the purpose to be innovative, or was it just a case of trying to do something new?
Well, it was a big advertisement for the company, like, look what we can do with cast iron, but also it was a practical solution for a problem. They needed a bridge to cross the river. The River Severn floods quite a lot and they were reliant on boats crossing the river, but with a bridge you wouldn't have to rely on the weather conditions.
So it was very much a marketing tool then?
Oh, definitely, yes. It was a huge marketing tool to say, look what we can do. Visitors came from all across the globe to marvel at it. The estimated cost of the bridge was around £3,000, so that's £250,000 in today's money, so a lot of money, but it actually cost £6,000 in the end, which meant that it nearly bankrupted the company, but it was worth it.
And despite the fact that it went way over budget, was it successful?
It was very successful, yes. Within 12 years, all the shareholders had earned their money back, and there were tolls on the bridge. They were in use until 1950.
Very lucrative then.
Yeah, and everyone had to pay, including military and royalty.
The process mastered by the Darbys was incredibly efficient, allowing them to make high-quality cast iron cheaper than anywhere else in the world. And the key to achieving all this success was the family's decision to set up shop here, next to the river.
So this is where the water wheel was. It harnessed the power from two streams, and that power was used to power the bellows for the furnace.
Is that one of the reasons why the Darby family moved here, because of the natural resources in the area?
Definitely. So this is the area of the Coalbrookdale coalfield. So you've got an area hugely rich in raw materials. There's coal, iron ore, limestone, clay, everything you need really for industry. And you've also got the River Severn, which is brilliant also for transporting goods to and from the area.
And the remains of Darby's original blast furnace are still here, 250 years after he began the first mass production of cast iron.
So this is the old furnace. It was here that we say the Industrial Revolution began. It was the innovations undertaken by Abraham Darby which really kick-started a whole series of changes that we now call the Industrial Revolution.
So this wasn't just a major innovation for the area, for Shropshire in the UK, but this was actually the start of a global transition.
Exactly. So what happened here, the effects are felt all across the globe. So we've got a lot of world's first coming out of this area, the first iron rails, the first iron railway wheels, the first cast iron steam cylinder engines, which was really important. You've got the first cast iron bridge, and then the first steam railway locomotive in the world.
I mean, I know that Birmingham and Manchester are obviously on the map for being key areas in the Industrial Revolution, but I didn't realise that Shropshire was the heart of it all.
I know, where it all began, in sleepy Shropshire.
And was there a religion for the community here at the time?
Yes, the Darbys were Quakers, and that influenced how they treated their workers, and there was this rise of Quakerism across Britain, but this area as well.
Did those religious beliefs then affect how they ran this company?
His beliefs particularly influenced his attitude to workers. So the Darbys, they built schools for their workers, housing, shops, ale houses even, and they created this, fostered a community built behind this belief of Quakerism.
Well, thank you very much, Georgina.
You're welcome.
I had no idea that this area was so massively important to not just the country, but also the world. And it was all underpinned by the Darby family and their religious beliefs. The Darbys are one of many Quaker families who grew to prominence in British society in the 18th and 19th centuries. Quakers founded banks, including Lloyd's and Barclays, manufacturers like Clark's Shoes, and the big three sweet makers, Cadbury, Rowntree and Fry. Now, I've heard about Quakers, and of course I know the famous porridge oats. But other than that, I don't really know much about this faith. A quick look at the internet reveals that Quakerism began in England in the mid-1600s and spread rapidly throughout the country. Instead of worshipping him directly, they believe there is something of God in everyone, and they promote peace and social justice. There are still many Quaker groups in this part of the world, so I'd like to see how it's practiced. To do so, I'm walking a short distance away from the river to where the Darby family used to live. And it's here I'm meeting practicing Quaker David Bowgett. These are the Darby houses, and I should be meeting David just round the corner. Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
I'm looking for David.
Oh, I'm Jill. I'm the doorkeeper. I'll take you through. Meeting's already started, so we'll need to be quiet.
Okay, no problem. Coming into the meeting, the first thing that strikes me is that everyone is silent. When I go to church, people are reverential, but there is usually a priest or a vicar leading the congregation. Here, everyone seems to be lost in their own thoughts until eventually one woman stands up to speak.
Be patterns, be examples in all countries, places, islands, nations, wherever you come.
Surprisingly, this doesn't spark a conversation. People listen patiently, but when she sits down, the silence resumes. It's unlike any worship I've ever seen before. Once it's all over, I have bags of questions for David. Should we go down here?
Yeah, that's fine.
So what exactly did I just experience?
I hope you experienced some kind of connection with the divine. I mean, we feel that most churches, they have things like hymns and music and sermons. And we as Quakers feel that actually that gets in the way. That kind of sort of spiritual dressing doesn't actually help us. So we cut it out and we go back to basic principles. And we focus simply on silence. And in that silence that we feel the presence of what we may choose to call God.
So is there someone leading that, or how does it work?
No, we don't have anybody in charge.
It's slightly different, I suppose, to the structure that I guess a traditional Christian's used to, where you can learn about how things work.
Yeah, I accept it's an issue, and that's one of the reasons that we have tea and coffee afterwards, so we have a chance to have the kind of conversation that I'm just having with you now. And Friends House, which is our sort of central secretariat in London, produces all sorts of really good books that we use for discussion or for silent reading.
Do you use the Bible as the foundation of what you do?
We'd say that we were rooted in Christianity, but because a central tenet of our belief is that everybody has their own personal spiritual journey, then some people come from traditional Christianity, refugees from other churches, but equally we may have people that have come to us from Islam or from Buddhism or from no religious belief at all.
So what are the key principles to Quakerism?
There probably is only one, that there is that of God in everyone. So you begin by that principle, then you're saying that everybody is equal. And that means, of course, that well, we're pacifists, because if you believe there's a spiritual dimension to everybody, then you can't kill them. It's why we're very keen on the environment, because we means we have a responsibility for the next generation.
Have you always been a Quaker, David?
No, I was brought up in the Anglican Church. I used to take services every Sunday, but I was finding it increasingly difficult to deal with the dogma of the church.
Why was that?
Well, I just didn't believe it anymore, and I wasn't content to say words I didn't accept. So it was wonderful. I moved to another town, and that gave me freedom to go around and visit other churches. And I was going to do all of them, all the different denominations, but the first one I went to was a Quaker meeting, and I never actually left.
And it's stuck.
I'm stuck, yes, I'm still here.
Thank you very much, David.
Nice to meet you. See you again sometime.
I have to get back onto my walk now, after you. It's really interesting with Quakerism. I think that it's great that they're inclusive. You know, that's what the bedrock of Christianity should be about. You know, if you look at the experience of Jesus and how that's dictated in the Bible, he's inclusive of all different types of people from all different walks of life, and it's very much clear that that's exactly what Quakers believe, and I think that was the thing that resonated most with me. With the sun still shining, I'm now ready for the next part of my journey. I'm heading about a mile to the west to reconnect with the river. The Severn Valley has always attracted human habitation. Archaeologists have discovered artefacts dating back to the late Neolithic period, the very dawn of man. Since then, numerous civilizations have come and gone, and though culturally they were all different, one thing united them: a reliance upon the natural resources provided by the waters. Nowadays, it's mostly used by local communities for recreational activities, some of which developed from the traditional ways people harnessed the river in the past. To try one of these out for myself, I've arranged to meet a man called Gerwin, who I'm told is an expert on a type of boat that was apparently first used here as long ago as the Bronze Age. There's a bit of a path down here. Hello, Gerwin. How you doing?
Hi there.
JB.
Hi there, I'm Gerwin.
Hello, Gerwin. Good to see you. so just explain to me what this is.
This is a coracle. It's an old fishing boat.
How would they use them for fishing?
Use them with nets. They'd have drifted down the river, which essentially the coracle is a drifting craft. They drift down the river with a net stretched between two coracles, and they'd catch the salmon that way.
So what's it made of?
These are the ash laths.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that are cut locally, and then this is the calico, which is stretched over the frame, and then it is painted with bitumastic paint.
Oh, okay.
Traditionally, these would have been made out of willow, or sally as I used to call it, and then sometimes they were made with the cowhide. There are lots of different styles. This is an Ironbridge coracle. There are Welsh ones, and we've even got an Iraqi one, really, if you really want to push your leg.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
So what's unique about the Ironbridge coracle?
Well, they're all fundamentally round or roundish, but the Ironbridge one is really quite dish-shaped, and it's more round than most.
So what's better, the Ironbridge coracle or the Welsh coracle?
What a question to ask me, eh? Huh? As a Welsh speaker, it has to be a Welsh coracle.
Of course.
Of course.
And is coracling a popular thing?
Very, very popular indeed. You know, when we started doing the coracle regatta 20 years ago, there was only about half a dozen of us. You can now see 30 or 40 coracles on the bank holiday Monday, and everybody enjoys their coracling because they're easy to build.
So can I have a go?
Of course you can. Yes, we have to get a life jacket on you and put you in the water. It's nice and easy.
Are you sure? I will be able to do it?
Well, we'll see.
All right, well, I'm going to learn from the master. Cute.
So put your foot in the middle of the boat, okay?
Yep.
And then slide your bottom into the middle and put a foot in each corner like so. Then it should be steady.
Yep.
After that, you've got to row or scull, as we say, okay? So what this is the action. It's a figure of 8 action, okay?
Yep.
So you do the figure of 8 action, then it'll pull the coracle forward.
Okay.
Are you ready for this now, JB?
Yeah. Ready as I'll ever be.
Go, right, okay, let's go.
Yep.
The other way round.
Which way round?
Okay.
This is, yeah, I thought you were going to having me on already. All right, here we go.
Now, I'm originally from Croydon, and a water baby I am not. This could go horribly wrong. I'm definitely doing exactly what he's doing. So why aren't I going anywhere?
It's really tough on the shoulders when you're doing this, especially when you're going against the flow of the current.
Eventually though, I think I'm starting to get the hang of it.
I think there's a future for me in this coracling. Whoa. Yeah.
Right.
Well done, that man. Excellent.
There we go.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well done.
That was cool.
Excellent.
How did I do?
4 out of 10.
Brilliant. Well, I'm still alive. I'll take it.
Apart from being simple to build, coracles are very light, so they can be easily carried on your shoulder if you need to travel overland. No wonder they've been around for so long.
There you go. That's how it's done. I must admit, that was quite a lot of fun. And it might have looked easy, but actually it's quite hard going, especially when you're going against the current. One of the best things about coming to local places is being able to take part in local traditions. And I think it's so important to keep things like coracling, which is so unique to Shropshire, alive. No rest for me though. It's on to the next place.
I'm following a quiet country road running alongside the Severn for another mile. As with all river valleys, the route is quite flat, and I'm finding it very easygoing as I head towards my next destination. Because people have always lived along the banks, as you travel along it, you encounter evidence not just of the ways they lived, but the ways they worshipped too. My guidebook tells me that somewhere nearby is Buildwas Abbey, established here by the river almost 1,000 years ago.
Ah, this looks like the place. We've even got ice cream too.
This abbey was built by the Cistercians, a Catholic order of monks that originated in France and who live an austere life of devotion and self-sufficiency.
Could I get a ticket, please? Yep.
It's now looked after by English Heritage.
Thank you very much.
It's more than worth the £5 admission fee.
Abbey's massive. It's unbelievable, some of the detail on these arches and the pillars. Unreal.
The abbey was apparently closed in 1536 by order of Henry VIII. It's one of thousands of Catholic buildings he shut after the Pope refused to allow him to divorce his first wife and marry Anne Boleyn.
Imagine what this would have been like in its former glory.
The Cistercian order still exists today, and I'd love to find out how their worship has evolved since this magnificent place was in its heyday.
That looks like the man I've come to see.
Abbot Joseph the Largy has travelled from his home in Leicestershire, in the UK's only surviving Cistercian community, to meet me.
Hi, Father Joseph.
Hello, nice to meet you.
JB.
Nice to meet you, JB.
So are you familiar with this place? It's very impressive.
It really is. No, it's the first time I visited this particular ruin. I've visited some of the others, but not this one.
But you're a Cistercian monk, aren't you?
I am a Cistercian, correct, yeah.
And this is from that?
Definitely, yeah. This would have had a community of Cistercian monks living the same life as we do to this day.
So what's involved with being a Cistercian monk?
We follow the rule of St. Benedict. We live to a very strict timetable. We have 7 church services a day, starting very early in the morning. But just like the monks here, we'd also have to work to earn our own living and spend time in prayer and meditation. It's timetabled community life.
How did you come to be a Cistercian monk?
When I was 18 or so, when I was discovering my faith, I thought monks were just people from the past. I didn't think there were still monks today. But when I heard there were still monks today, you know, that's what I want to do, that total, give my life totally to God in that way, coming apart from the world and living that kind of separate life. So it's a very focused life. We live within the monastery, we very rarely come out, we don't have holidays and things like that. But it's a very full and satisfying life if it's the life that you're called to.
And how many of you are there?
There's 24 in the community today. Similar to the number of monks that would have been here in most of the history of the Abbey, yeah, 24.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I imagine there would have been more.
At the very beginnings, there would have perhaps been 100 monks, but after the first 100 years or so, the numbers came to around what they are today. Yeah.
So where are we standing now?
This would have been the actual sanctuary where the high altar would have been, and so the main central religious service of the day would have taken place here. So this would have been the real heart, the centre of the abbey, and there would have been seats there for the priest saying the mass to sit, and there would have been one main celebration here each morning. But then there would have been little in the side chapels next door. There would have been celebrations as well. That would be the Eucharist, the Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, they would have celebrated that each day. Yeah.
So does this feel similar to the Abbey where you are now?
It does actually. There's a number of things that, particularly the size of it, the pillars are similar to the pillars in our church. But just the layout, all Cistercian abbeys were laid out the same, and so it's very similar. You feel you know your way around, even though this is the first time I visited here.
Why would an abbey like this have been built here at that time?
One of the very important things was the source of water, so it's right on the banks of the River Severn, and they would have been able to fish on the river as well. So I think the river would have been a great attraction to them.
Well, thank you very much, Father Joseph.
Okay, nice meeting you.
Appreciate your time and safe journey back, okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
These ruins are epic, but what's even more fascinating is that Father Joseph is living the same life today as the monks here did 800 years ago.
Leaving the abbey behind, I'm rejoining the river about half a mile upstream. Although it's fairly firm underfoot today, on occasion the Severn does flood, leaving the riverbank quite boggy.
I love coming back to the water. It's been such a key part of my walk here, and you can see how the people who've settled here have used it. And one of the things that the river has always provided is food.
This patch of water is recognised as one of the finest places in Britain to fish for barbel, chub, pike and roach. And just like the Cistercian brothers used to fish the river for sustenance, there's one member of the modern clergy who tries to combine that pastime with his ministry. His name is John Barrett, and believe it or not, he calls himself the Fishing Vicar. John.
Oh, hi there, JB.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good to meet you, excellent. I've got a seat all set up for you, so let's get you to, as they say in my trade, take a pew and we'll sit down.
Nice. I love the fact that you're known as the Fishing Vicar. So how did you manage to mix the fact that you're a vicar with your love for fishing?
I think for me it's about integrating every aspect of your life. So I was a fisherman before I became a Christian. I became a Christian before I was a vicar. I think the thing that's most integral and pivotal to who I am, the thing that I would say that defines me as a person is my faith. You know, whatever I'm doing, there's a sense in which I feel that I'm doing that as a Christian.
Absolutely. Well, can I do some fishing now?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get you casting out, and after that there are no promises, but we'll see what happens.
Exactly. All right, what do I need to do?
Right, pick up the rod.
Along with another minister and fishing fanatic, John started Christian Anglers UK to meet with fellow fishermen of faith. Now 60 strong, they get together for barbecues and Bible studies outside of a formal church environment.
So that way, round to the right, and send it. We love it.
Come on, son.
Look at that. Slightly tighten up to that, and we'll put the rod in the rest.
And with that, we wait. There's quite a lot of downtime when you're fishing, isn't there?
Yeah, particularly in this sort of fishing. There are some sorts which actually are extremely active, but this one's much more about sitting back and waiting for that one big fish. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like fishing. There was a guy whose life sort of spanned the 16th and 17th centuries called Isaac Walton, and he wrote a book called The Complete Angler, which is the third most reprinted book ever in the English language, behind just the Bible and the works of Shakespeare. It's a book that celebrates the countryside. It's a book which contains lots of tips and instructions for how to fish in the 16th and 17th centuries, but it also contains a lot of religious writing. And there are some academics who think The Complete Angler is actually as much a religious allegory and a book about his Christian faith as it is a book about fishing.
What do you think it is about fishing and faith in particular? Obviously in the Bible there's lots of references to people who have fished before.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus' first disciples were fishermen, and he famously says, "Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." And James and John and Peter and Andrew were fishermen. But I think particularly today, our lives are so frenetic and so hectic. And when you're fishing, someone once said that time feels like it collects. You know, you get that time, you get that space. And I think if you already do believe all of this stuff that we sit around and we see today and that we're enjoying, if you believe that God created that, then just being immersed in it and having the time to appreciate it draws you to that place where you want to thank God for all of this stuff. So I think fishing almost can be a bit like an act of worship. And I think for those who don't have a faith, I think when you're in quiet places like this, fishing often takes you to what you might describe as quite a sort of spiritual place.
We wait for an hour, but sadly don't get as much as a nibble. It doesn't matter one bit though. What's not to like about sitting back and relaxing into a good conversation when you're in a place like this?
Brilliant. Well, it's been lovely meeting you. Fantastic. What an afternoon.
Thank you very much. I really appreciated it.
Pleasure.
I leave John to it. It's been a gorgeous day, but I've still got a bit of a trek ahead of me, so I'm going to stop for the night. I want to be up bright and early because there are still many treasures ahead of me further upstream. I think this is amazing. Just over there are the remains of what used to be the fourth largest Roman city in Britain. I can't believe that thousands of years ago, this was a bustling civilization. Originally called Viraconium, Wroxeter was a prosperous city, which at its peak had a population of 15,000 people. And they built it here because, like the early civilizations before it, the Romans realized they could utilize the river. Morning.
Good morning. Welcome to Wroxeter Roman City. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good.
Is it okay to get in and see the ruins?
Certainly.
Incredibly, it's thought that in its prime, this place was almost as big as Pompeii, the Roman city near Naples that was destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. Today, much of Wroxeter remains below ground, but guide Hannah McGonigal is going to give me a tour of one of the highlights of what's been uncovered, the Bathhouse. So what are we standing on right now?
So we're currently standing in the Basilica, which is basically just a big gym. So the Romans believed that they had a layer of dirt underneath their skin, and the only way to get that out and become squeaky clean is to sweat it out. So you'd be doing your exercises in here, and then you'd move on to the other areas of the bathhouse. And they pumped all the dirty bath water, all the dirty toilet water, anything they didn't want into the city, into the river.
So they didn't use the river for swimming then, did they?
I should hope not. But then the Romans didn't really know about germs, so they may have done, because to them, it just washes away.
The Romans used a sophisticated underfloor heating method known as hypercaust. The floor of the bath was raised above the ground by pillars called pillae stacks, which supported layers of porous floor tiles. Hot air from a central furnace would circulate through this enclosed area into the rooms above to heat them. So what area would this have been?
So this is all part still of the bath complex. So we've come in from the gym. We've entered the cold, unheated room where you literally just plunge yourself into the pools on either side, pick yourself up and move you on, because no one wants a cold bath in Britain. The next room is the best room. This is the really hot and steamy room. The kids would go play off, the adults would have a good conversation, and personally it's my favourite room.
So it was a real meeting place then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just like a modern day coffee shop is today.
And did faith play a part in what they were doing in those days?
So there are many areas in Roman life that was affected by religion and faith. Here in the bathhouse, although you may not think it, it was also ruled by religion. If you'd got an eye infection from all the dirty water in the area, you could bring offerings to the gods to help cure your eyes.
Everything changed, however, in 1313 AD, when the Roman Emperor Constantine made Christianity legal, and it rapidly spread throughout the empire.
You basically see the old temples being torn down and remade into more altars and private shrines. We also have St Andrew's Church, which soon cropped up during the last few years of Roman occupation here as being their main epicentre. You must go and see it.
Definitely. I always find ruins really interesting, especially when you consider the life that would have been here has now been swept up and forgotten. The river, the land, the forests have all remained, but the people have disappeared. It makes me wonder what future generations will think of the ruins that we leave behind. So my next stop has to be St Andrews, half a mile down the road. Though it's been rebuilt and reconfigured several times since the Romans left, Hannah assured me there's still clear evidence of their presence in the current structure. It's a striking, elegant place of worship. Though it no longer has an active parish, because of its historical significance, it's now under the care of the church's Conservation Trust. To help with the upkeep, it runs a scheme called Champing here. It's essentially a night's camping inside the church. And lucky for me, one of the groups staying tonight is a bit of a St James expert. Hello, ladies.
Oh, hello.
Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Hello.
JB.
Oh, Mary.
Hello, Mary. I've actually been at the Roman city.
Oh, yes.
And I thought I'd drop in here to find out a bit more of the Roman artefacts that are here as well.
Oh, right. Well, just behind you where you're standing, this is a very important one. And this was originally the base of a pillar in the Roman basilica. So what they've done, they've turned it up the other way around and made it into a baptismal font.
But you'd walk past that and not realise that it was a pillar at all?
No, you would. Yeah, that's the thing. You wouldn't really realise that it was Roman, would you?
Not at all. I wonder how they even got it here.
Well, it looks pretty heavy to me. Search me how they got it here, but it must have been taking a long time. Would you like me to show you?
And Mary has another surprise for me, something I'd completely missed when I arrived at the church.
The interesting thing about this church, which is another thing to do with the Roman city of Viriconium, is that the pillars either side of the gate here are Roman pillars which were brought from the Roman city.
Oh,
and
wow.
we think that they were pillars which were in villas belonging to some Roman citizens. You don't usually see this sort of thing, you know, on a church gateway, do you?
Well, even if you do, you don't necessarily recognise them as being Roman, would you?
No, you don't. No, I think it's amazing.
How long ago would they have come here?
About 1,500 years ago, something like that, yeah.
Well, there's no doubt the Romans built things well if they've been here for 1,500 years. But the Romans left more than just buildings behind. They introduced something to Britain which remains an intrinsic part of our culture to this day: wine. Now, just a short walk up this road with the sun making a welcome return, I've arranged to meet Martin Millington, whose family have been running a vineyard here on the banks of the Severn for 27 years. Hello, Martin.
Hello.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
You too. What are you up to?
Well, we're picking here at the moment. Hey, just by chance, I've got a pair of secateurs for you.
There we go. So what do I need to do? I've never done this before.
Well, in essence, what you do is you cut the fruit off the vine itself, and then you end up with a nice bunch of grapes.
Okay, perfect. I can do that. Well, can you eat these grapes as well?
You can. I wouldn't suggest eating too many of them, though. Because, of course, the winemaking grape contains various acids.
Yeah.
Those acids are very good at moving, put it politely, moving the digestion along.
Oh, yeah.
That's the reason why we still take people with grapes in hospital nowadays.
Oh, really?
Yes. First thing you do when you go into hospital is you get bunged up. Well, what they found is by taking people grapes in hospital, the acids in the grapes will move the bowels along. And, of course, then you're not bunged up, and you're feeling a little bit more healthy. But of course, that has got completely lost in the mist of time.
Well, I was up at the Roman city earlier. Did they use this space for growing grapes as well, for wine?
They would have had a vineyard in the area. Quite where is open to conjecture, but the Romans took the vine wherever they went. And what they found was if they added that to the local waters, they didn't become perhaps as poorly as if they was just drinking those local waters. And of course, the fermentation process changes the sugars in the juice to alcohol. Alcohol is a natural sterilant, so of course it's better for them to drink. And so of course the vine itself effectively was the giver of life.
Yeah.
And as such became entrenched in all sorts of religions all around the world.
Absolutely. I was going to say that is pretty much one of the core teachings that Jesus had in the Bible.
In those days, you stayed where you were born. You were used to all the bacteria and so on in the water source. If you went down to the next village down, it's a different set of nasties. And so what they found by the addition of the fluid that was given to them by fermentation of the grape, that would actually cleanse some of the water, hence give them their life.
So there actually is a little bit of truth in the fact that some wine is good for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't suggest drinking too much because that affects other organs of the body.
Yeah.
But actually in moderation, wine can be very, very good for you in a very medicinal way. When the Romans left, of course, a lot of the knowledge went with them, and of course, a lot of the vineyards died out. But in the last few years, of course, we've had a renaissance of wine growing in this country, and we're giving the rest of the world a run for their money.
Well, they're growing very well here, aren't they? So
the Shropshire sunshine this time has done them a good treat, I tell you. We make here somewhere around about 15,000 bottles a year.
And do you distribute that around the country or around the world?
The honest answer to that question really is, how many do you want?
Well, I'll definitely have to take 1 or 2 bottles with me when we go. Can we try some?
You're very, very welcome to, but can we just do a bit more picking first? Because I've got to get the press on.
Yes, of course. The warmer temperatures we've been having, along with favourable environmental factors here, means Martin and his wife Amanda now produce 7 different grape varieties, and I can thoroughly vouch for each of them. But can I buy a bottle of the Shropshire Red?
Yeah, of course you can.
All in the interest of research, you understand. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. Enjoy your day.
I will do, and all the very best.
Thank you, nice to meet you, bye.
Well, I'm no wine connoisseur, but that was very nice indeed. And I suppose a special thing about coming to a place like this is the stories, and you feel like you're tasting a piece of history with every sip of wine. Can't think of a better way to break up a walk. It's been a glorious day so far, and the sun is still shining as I follow the river as it flows from the countryside into the outskirts of the county town of Shropshire, Shrewsbury. I've seen how both Romans and medieval Christians lived their lives on the banks of the river, but I've heard there's a unique insight into another, somewhat more unexpected, religious practice to be found here amongst the shops and restaurants. Somewhere around here is a person I'm really excited to meet. He's one of the few remaining British practitioners of a skill that goes back centuries, and I'm about to get a private view of his incredible work. And that's if I can find his workshop. I'm looking for Aidan Hart, painter of religious icons. These wondrous paintings are meant to provide a window between heaven and earth. Here we are. Hi, Aidan.
Hi, welcome to the studio, JB.
This is amazing.
Thank you so much.
What's going on here?
Yeah, this is an icon of the Mother of God and Christ called Our Lady of the Sign, and this is for a church in Cambridge, and it goes together with more icons here which I'm painting.
And are you a man of faith then?
Very much so, yeah. I've been a Christian virtually all my life. I'm a member of the Orthodox Church.
And is this type of art something that's particular to the Orthodox denomination?
It's been known recently as particular to the Orthodox Church, but in fact it was common to the whole of Western Christendom, at least up to the time of Henry VIII in Britain. So now we're used to churches with bare walls, but in fact, up until his time, churches are full of images.
In the Orthodox Church, these depictions of sacred figures are directly venerated, as if the image itself is a holy object. Where do you get the inspiration for drawing the icons? Do you copy something or look at something and then
Yeah, you're
translate
sort of working
it?
within a language and a tradition. So on the one hand, I don't just make up anything that comes to my head. On the other hand, it's not a dead copyist tradition. So for this icon, I drew from 5 different icons to compose this one.
The inspiration.
Yeah.
And how long would it take you to paint a commissioned piece like this?
Well, including making the panel, putting the plaster on and the gilding and the painting and the design, probably about 3 weeks for this one.
Okay, so relatively quick.
I'm pretty quick. I've been doing it 35 years, but yeah. But the actual painting has been about 2 weeks, I suppose.
And where did you learn to do something like this?
There was no one around for me to study under, so I've just had to use my eyes really as my teacher. I'm quite analytical, so when I see a masterpiece, I've learned to think, not that's just beautiful, but why is it beautiful? So I sort of study what layers are put first, what layers on top. A lot of scientific research is done nowadays with modern equipment, and they can tell you precisely what pigments are used and how they're laid up. So all those. It's a slow way to learn, so that's why I run this part-time icon course. The Prince of Wales has a school called the Prince's School of Traditional Arts. So I run a 3-year part-time programme to speed up the learning process.
Yeah. And do you feel like you have to have a real knowledge and understanding of the biblical text as a foundation in order to create something like this?
Oh, certainly, yeah. You need to know the scriptures, the hymn texts, which are very theological, but above all, have a living relationship with the saints you're painting. So I think I'm a theologian in colour.
I've never heard it put like that before. And I studied theology at university myself, so brilliant. The colours Aidan uses are all made from natural materials, and I'm keen to have a go at making them for myself.
Yeah, come over here and I'll get you to prepare a bit of blue pigment. I grind up this beautiful stone azurite.
Yep.
So you crush it up first, and then we put the half-ground powder here.
Yep.
And then a bit of water. We grind it with this, with some water. Not too much, just a few drops. And it gets finer and finer the more you grind.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing, if you grind it a lot, the blue gets less and less blue.
Oh, really?
So it's getting the right balance. If you want a really fine pigment, it's going to be less blue. If you want a really deep blue, then it's going to be a bit coarser. So in fact, from one stone, you can get about 5 different grades of blue.
Wow.
And it's all to do with the size of the particles. It's like
amazing.
Yeah.
Am I doing a good job of this?
You're doing a good job, brilliant
Yeah.
job. Then when you're finished, you can either leave that to dry, then you scrape it off as powder, like that, or you can store it as a paste.
Wow, so there's no wastage either?
No wastage.
Now Rembrandt I am not, so very wisely Aidan doesn't let me loose on one of his works in progress. But it's lovely to try it out. It feels like normal paint, but it's interesting to know that you're using all natural products. It's very therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah. I know you made your own pigment. Great.
So some of the techniques that you're using now, the Romans would have used as well?
Haven't changed at all, yeah?
Well, thank you so much,
A
Aidan.
real pleasure, JB.
It really has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and mind how you go.
Thank you, good journey.
It's amazing to see someone like him who lives and breathes every aspect of his work. It's like an expression of his faith, and it's almost like he's painting while he's praying. And it draws him closer to his faith, that's for sure. I'm now heading across the river into Shrewsbury itself, which is almost completely encircled by the Severn. My guidebook tells me it was established in 800 AD. Being so close to the border, it's been the scene of many battles between the English and the Welsh. In the Middle Ages, it thrived because of the wool trade, and it retains a medieval street plan with many narrow, cobbled thoroughfares. Today, over 70,000 people live here, and there's a vibrant religious community with 2 synagogues, Buddhist and Muslim centres, and 4 churches. And apparently, I can't come here without stopping in at one in particular. This is St Mary's Church, and it's home to 14th and 19th century work depicting the events of the Bible. I've heard it's pretty special. It's a Grade 1 listed building dating back to Saxon times. And its spire is one of the country's tallest. The moment I step inside, I'm overcome by the beauty of its dazzling stained glass windows. I've seen stained glass windows before, but this is quite simply spectacular. St Mary's is considered one of the most beautiful parish churches in England, and these windows are considered some of the greatest of their kind. I'm keen to talk to local guide Stan Stedman to find out all about them. Hello, is it Stan?
It is, yes.
Hello,
Hi.
Stan, JB.
Hiya, hi JB. Nice to meet you.
So this is just unbelievable.
It is. It's quite magical, isn't it? It's a Jesse window, and that basically is telling the genealogy of Christ through the family of Jesse, starting with David, who was the son of Jesse, and then just above him is Solomon. And you can recognise them as kings because they've got the crowns on their head.
I mean, you just look at it and you can tell. It's so warm, it's so vibrant.
Yeah. And then on the outside, at either side, the 2 panels are the prophets of the Old Testament, which would have referred to the coming of the Messiah. You've got Joseph and Mary at the top. And along the bottom is the family that actually gave the window. And we know it's 1350, roughly, because behind the reredos it says, "Pray for Sir John Charlton," not pray for his soul. So we know he's still alive.
Yeah.
We know his sons are a certain age because they've been made knights. So you give a rough estimate of how you get the date of about 1350.
But why were these stained glass windows put here in the first place?
Basically, they're telling stories. I mean, as you go around, you'll see panels which will tell a story of the Bible, because there were no books. And so people were actually looking at the windows and they'd learn the stories.
And is this still a consecrated church? Because I feel like something like this has to be shared.
It's what is referred to as a redundant church, because the parish couldn't support the church. Fortunately for us, it was, unlike other churches, it was taken over by the Church Conservation Trust. And they do a fantastic job, and thousands of visitors come in here. You're talking about 60,000 visitors coming here every year. And once people have been in, they grow to love it.
So what else is quirky and unique to this place?
Well, I'll show you my favourite panel, which shows you the originality of all the things that are in this church. Okay, so if I just show you here, my favourite panel. The ones on the outside are what are called votive panels, where people are praying to their patron saint for guidance or what have you. But the middle one is the betrayal of Jesus by Judas in the Garden of the Gethsemane. And just looking at that picture, you've got everything there. You've got the kiss, you've got the coins, you've got the Roman soldiers, you've got Jerusalem in the background, you've got the garden with the trees. Absolutely beautiful. And the colours are so rich. And you were talking about 1600 and the colours, the richness of those colours. And I just love it because of that story and the way it portrays it.
But it is just stunning. I mean, it looks like it's in 3D.
Yes. There's no sun behind there. No matter what day you come in, that window will look like that.
Well, thank you so much, Stan. It's fascinating.
It's been a pleasure. And I'm glad to show you one of our treasures.
There must be literally hundreds of stories in these stained glass windows. I could stay here for hours, but unfortunately, I've got to keep it moving.
I'm coming to the end of my journey, but there's one final stop that's perfectly placed to help me reflect on everything I've seen. Built in 1070, this Norman castle was originally a fortress against Welsh invaders and benefited from being surrounded by the Severn.
I mean, just look at this. Incredible, isn't it?
After falling into disrepair, the castle was extensively rebuilt in 1790 by the civil engineer Thomas Telford. Telford also built an iron bridge over the Severn at Buildwas, using many of the techniques pioneered by Abraham Darby, who I learned about at the start of my walk.
It really is great up here. The views are just spectacular.
Looking back over the castle walls, I can see the entirety of my route, with the mighty Severn unfolding in front of me.
When I think of everywhere I've visited, of the evidence I've seen of all the different civilizations who settled in this region, from the Romans who invaded to the Normans who built this castle, even the ordinary men and women living and working around here today, the one constant is the Severn.
Our rivers are the lifeblood of our landscapes, a resource of food, transport and power. They also provide inspiration for those that live around them. And as I've learnt on my journey, people have been using them as sources of spirituality and well-being for centuries. I can totally see why. This really has been the most inspiring walk.